everyone. Hello. I did not see that video ahead of time, so I'm very emotional. I also will educate my dad and tell him it's Endometriosis Foundation of America. So don't worry about that. But first and foremost, I do want to thank EndoFound, and I want to thank Padma and Dr. Sechkin and Dr. Haas and really everyone at EndoFound who has welcomed me as an ambassador and given me a platform to share my story. I feel so honored to share this space tonight with people who care about endometriosis, who advocate for endometriosis, who are treating endometriosis, but most importantly, who even know what endometriosis is. I am so grateful to EndoFound for bringing awareness to a disease that has been wildly overlooked, under-researched, and silenced for far too long. That being said, yeah, we can clap. That being said, I must admit, it does feel unusual to receive an award for having a chronic disease. A disease that is not uncommon, it is not rare. I am not an anomaly. More than 1 in 10 people with a uterus have endometriosis, so I am not exceptional in that way. And it is really important for me to acknowledge the people who live and work and provide for their families every day despite living with chronic pain, the people who cannot afford treatment for endometriosis like I could, the people who are unknowingly living with this disease. Those people deserve every award, and tonight they deserve our applause. I am standing here today because I believe everyone deserves to live a pain-free life. And when I was thinking about what I wanted to say tonight, I had a million ideas of what stories I wanted to tell and whom I wanted to thank, and I wanted to write something that was compelling and impressive and moving. But then I realized that I had already unknowingly written a speech for tonight. I wrote it in 2018, the year that I was diagnosed with endometriosis. I wrote an op-ed about my diagnosis journey in hopes of getting it published and spreading awareness. Unfortunately, no one wanted to hear it. But tonight, I have the floor, so if you don't mind, I'd like to share those words tonight. The words, thank you. The words of a young woman who felt isolated and alone and unheard. Tonight, I'd like for her to speak her truth. Periods hurt. That is what we are taught in school, in our 5th grade health classes. We're told periods are supposed to hurt and that we're supposed to deal with that pain for the rest of our childbearing lives. Tough luck. So when that time came for me, I assumed that the pain that I was experiencing was normal. The cramps, the fatigue, the swollen feet, the painful bowel movements, the nausea, the headaches. This is what my teacher told me about in health class. This was the big show. This was womanhood at its finest. And I, just like every other woman on planet Earth, would just deal with the pain. So over the next 11 years, that's what I did. Even though my pain was increasing every year, I fought through it. I justified the crippling pain as routine PMS, and I figured that every woman dealt with cramps that stopped them from going to work or to school. I thought this was a rite of passage. And it wasn't until I was 23 years old, 11 long years after my symptoms started with my first period, when my roommate found me lying on the bathroom floor, that somebody finally said, "Corinne, this is not normal." And it may seem obvious now, but at the moment I was completely shocked. I had been sold a narrative that this was how periods worked. They hurt. And it wasn't until then that I ever thought to question that. And that revelation set me on a months-long journey, shuffling from doctor's offices to homeopathic practices. And my routine went a little something like this: meet a doctor, strip, prick, probe, and go home with the same diagnosis. Normal. And this cycle would repeat itself every single week for months. And it was hard for me to describe the intensity of my pain to my doctors, my friends, and even my family. No one can imagine what living with chronic pain feels like until you've experienced it yourself. And soon I realized that I was the only person who was gonna fight for my health. And I'll never forget the day that I got my diagnosis. Not because it was a day filled with relief, but because I hope no woman has to feel the way that I did. I was at a new doctor's office that day, and the exam played out as usual: strip, prick, probe. Except this time, when he was about to send me home with no answers, I explained my symptoms one more time. And I could see him putting the clues together in his head, and he said, "Sounds like endometriosis." Endometriosis? That word rang familiar, not because I'd been taught it in school or because any other doctor had mentioned it. I'd heard the word before because of another Blossom Award recipient, Lena Dunham. I followed her on social media and knew that she posted openly about her battle with the disease. And I also knew that Lena had recently underwent a hysterectomy, an extremely personal and brave decision that was right for her. Lena's experience was all that I had ever known or heard of the disease. So in that moment, when this doctor says endometriosis, I really heard infertility. And instantly I cried, and instead of offering more information or even comforting me, a tissue, he quietly stepped out of the room to leave me alone. And as I sobbed, a nurse came into the room to tell me that I could schedule my surgery at the front desk without any information as to what that surgery entailed. Luckily, I never went back to that office. Instead, now empowered, thank you. Instead, now empowered with knowledge, I researched, and I sat on message boards, and I read medical journals, and I listened to podcasts. And let me tell you, what I found was devastating. I was not alone. Endometriosis affects more than 1 in 10 people with uteruses during their reproductive years. How could that many people be suffering with this disease? And it took me months to receive a diagnosis. How could I see multiple doctors and only one had even uttered the word endometriosis? But my findings weren't all bad. I was able to find the perfect doctor for me, one of the few doctors specializing in endometriosis in the country. And on October 11th, 2018, I successfully had surgery without risking any of my reproductive organs. I write this piece because I wish I read it 12 years ago when I first got my period. I wish someone had told me there is a difference between normal menstrual pain and debilitating, excruciating pain. I wish someone had told me that my symptoms were the classic signs of endometriosis early on. I wish I'd known what endometriosis was. Knowledge is power. And when we don't know fundamental facts about our bodies, we become powerless in the fight for our own health. So here is what I wish I learned in my 5th grade health class. Yes, periods hurt, but you should never be in debilitating pain. And if you can't get out of bed and are missing school or work, you need to see a doctor. And if that doctor tells you that what you are feeling is normal, get a second opinion. Hell, get a third. Until you find a solution that brings you real relief, keep demanding to be seen. No one is going to fight for your health more than you. And to my fellow endo warriors on this journey with me, I'm here with you, I stand with you, I feel your pain, and I am here to not take normal for an answer. Thank you.